Hey, welcome to my channel. My name is Jessie, and today I am wrapping up the books I read in February. Quantity-wise, February was kind of a rough reading month for me. I had a lot of trouble getting into books. I had a lot of trouble picking what I was wanting to read next. I was just very slumpy and just had trouble reading and figuring out what I wanted to read in February. And so I only read 6 books, and I did DNF a 7th book. Although my reading quantity was a little low in February, the quality was really great. I had 3 5-star reads, 2 4-stars, and a 3.5-star rating. So overall, I would say it turned out okay, but I am hoping in March so I can read a few more books, but still keep up and have a great quality as well. I think I'm going to start with the book I DNF'd, and from there go and talk about the books in rating order. But before I get started, please take a moment to like this video and subscribe to my channel if you want to make finding my content just a little bit easier. The book I DNF'd in February was You Should See Me in a Crown by Leah Johnson. This book follows Liz. Her mom died sometime in the past, and one of her biggest goals in life is to go to her mom's alma mater and from there go on to become a doctor and research the disease that killed her mom and that her brother also suffers from. So she has tried out for the marching band at the college. Things aren't quite going well and she needs money to go to the college. And so prom is a really big deal in this town, and she ends up joining the run for prom queen, even though it's not something she would normally do. And I think along the way she's supposed to fall in love with one of the other contestants or develop feelings for her. I don't know if fall in love is the right word. I don't know if they make it that far with their feelings. But overall, I ended up DNFing this book just because it was taking me so long to read. What I had read so far, I enjoyed. I think I was just over halfway through, and it just wasn't holding my attention. I had a lot of trouble, wanting to pick up the book, and I had a lot of trouble staying into the book once I picked it up. I've noticed that whenever I read books in short spurts, where I read a chapter or two, take a break, read a chapter or two, take a break, I tend to not enjoy the book as much. And so I just decided that I would go ahead and DNF this book for now, and I will come back to it later. My favorite book I read in February, and my first 5-star read, was People We Meet on Vacation by Emily Henry. This book follows Poppy and Alex. Poppy and Alex became best friends at the beginning of college, and they used to always go on vacations together. They would take a vacation together every summer. It was like their big trip they would save up for and make these big plans for and get all excited to do. And then about 2 years prior to the start of this book, there was an issue, something happened, and they quit being friends. Or they didn't really quit being friends, but they quit talking and they quit going on vacations. Now suddenly Poppy kind of wants to start the vacations back, so she invites Alex on the vacation with her. She kind of gives him false pretenses, and it was just a really fun and good book. I had a great time with this book. I really enjoyed the way the friends to lovers trope was handled in this particular book. I'm not sure that I am someone who has really strong feelings on the friends to lovers trope, but I do know that I like the way it was handled in this book. I liked the way, that neither of them really pined for each other, or obviously pined. I liked that, neither of them came off as particularly desperate at any point, but I like the way that it was handled, to where, it was their friendship first. Anything else that would happen, they both had to really think about. Overall, I just really enjoyed this book. I also rated Hani Nishu's Guide to Fake Dating by Adiba Jayagurdabar. I'm very sorry for mispronouncing the author's last name. I rated that book 5 stars and I absolutely enjoyed it. It was so great. I had a great time with it. I really enjoyed Hani Nishu's characters. I think Ishu might have been my favorite, but I really enjoyed them both together. Hani Nishu's Guide to Fake Dating follows 2 teenage girls, Hani and Nishu. They are high schoolers, and they somehow end up in a fake dating relationship. All that based off the title. Hani recently came out to her 2 best friends as bisexual, and they don't believe her. They're like, you've never dated a girl, so how can you say you're bisexual? And so somehow she ends up convincing Ishu, who is not particularly her friend, but is someone else she has a lot of stuff in common with, especially culturally, and with their family practices and stuff. And so Ishu ends up going along with it because she has her own aspirations that she needs popularity to reach. And Hani and her friends are, the popular girls in their grade for the most part. And so she and Hani kind of take advantage of each other to get what they need out of this particular situation. Along the way, real feelings develop, and they actually develop a really cute relationship. Along the way, though, both characters are dealing with their own issues. Hani's best friends are very toxic, and I do wish that they had gotten their comeuppance in the end. I really just didn't like either of them. I really wish that, Hani would have, I just wish something would have happened to have been, I guess, more dramatic to make them realize how bad they were to Hani. I'm not quite sure what I wish would have happened. I just wish that they would have faced more consequences. They were really disrespectful of Hani's beliefs and her culture, and they were also very disrespectful of her dad, running for government and not supporting her whenever she's trying to help him. They were very dismissive of most of Hani's interests that fell outside of their friend group. But Hani does have really supportive parents. Her parents support her even though she's out and bisexual and everything. Isha, on the other hand, she is just kind of, her toxic issue is her parents. She is trying to, you know, do better than her sister who recently let her parents down, and she wants to be the golden child and the perfect daughter. But she kind of has to learn to know, is that worth it? Is all that work worth it if she's really only doing it to please her parents? So I thought this was a really great book, and it's one that I really want to get a physical copy of sometime in the future. How the King of Elfin Learned to Hate Stories by Holly Black was also a 5-star read for me. I picked this book up for my birthday. It's not one I would normally read. I don't normally care for companion books to a series after a series is done, but I wanted to check it out. It was on sale, I believe, and I really enjoyed the illustrations throughout this book. And so I read it, and I actually appreciate getting a deeper look into Carden's character and himself as the main character, and himself in a more humanizing way, I guess. I really appreciate that part of the book. Also, though, this is one that I really don't know how to rate, so I don't know that I would have rated it less than 5 stars unless I'd absolutely hated it. But I love the illustrations. I really loved the series, and I thought this was great as well. I also read Make a Scene by Mimi Grace, and it was a 4-star read. This book follows Retta and Duncan, and they end up in a fake dating relationship. Retta owns a bakery near where Duncan recently opened a new gym, and they're not quite enemies at first, but there's definitely a dispute over some parking spots. Retta also has an issue where the person that her cousin is married recently broke up with her not long before he got with her cousin, and she doesn't want to show up to the wedding without a date, and she also doesn't want to not show up at all because she wants to show her whole family that she has moved on and she's happy and in a better spot. She also had other issues happen around the time she and her boyfriend who got with her cousin broke up. Duncan, on the other hand, I don't quite remember what makes him agree to it, other than, you know, I guess like they make a deal actually. But he also has a lot going on in his personal life, especially with his parents, who are parents who should be divorced, and I guess keep putting it off, and he is just sick of it. But I really enjoyed their relationship. I thought they were really cute together. I enjoyed them. I'm actually really excited for the second book because it follows the co-owner of Duncan's gym and Duncan's sister, so I'm excited to see how that one goes. I ended up reading the ebook whenever I was scrolling on Libby one night. I was feeling slumpy, but I wanted to read. I just didn't want to read anything I was currently reading or anything on my bookshelves at the moment. And so I scrolled through Libby, I found Make a Scene, and I checked it out and started reading it. And I think it was definitely a great pick to help me get out of the slump. It was incredibly fast-paced, but I would say how fast-paced it was also a little bit of a downfall. The book is, I believe, about 250 pages, maybe I might be a little off. And it was also incredibly fast-paced, but at some points I felt like I was missing something or I just got lost because of how fast-paced it was. But overall, it was a great book, and I am looking forward to reading the next book in this series. If the Shoe Fits by Julie Murphy was another 4-star read for me. This book follows Cindy, and she has recently graduated from design school, and she's kind of having a rough time. She didn't quite meet all the requirements she needs to, you know, have the next step in a fashion career. She needs some time off, and so she needs to figure out what to do. So she goes home to her stepmom and stepsisters and her half-siblings to nanny her little half-siblings. And along the way, she somehow ends up getting roped into being a contestant on this show called Before Midnight, which is a Bachelor-style show. And it turns out she and the Bachelor have met at some point before. And along the way, you get to see Sydney, you know, make relationships with other girls who are competing for the prince's attention. And you also get to see her fall in love and have a real relationship. I enjoyed most of this book. I had a really good time with most of it. I thought Cindy was fun. I really enjoyed the Cinderella retelling aspects of it. The half-siblings were kind of named after the mice. I also enjoyed the twist this book took, where the stepmother and the stepsisters weren't necessarily evil. You know, Cindy talks about times where she and her stepfamily had a rough relationship. There have been times where she and her stepmother Erica didn't necessarily get along, but overall they have a positive relationship and they respect each other. And similarly with her stepsisters, there have been times, especially when they were kids, where they didn't necessarily get along, but as adults, they have actual friendships and are close. This book was a romance, and there was quite a bit of focus on the romance of the book, but I also enjoyed that there was quite a bit of focus on Cindy's relationships with the other girls in the house, especially her roommates, and I'm glad that, you know, for the most part, she left the show with positive relationships with these people. Although this was a great book overall, it was just a 4-star read because while I liked it, it wasn't my favorite. There were a few times whenever the Cinderella retelling parts felt a little too cheesy. It actually heavily reminded me of a Cinderella story in some ways, which I guess it should because that's also another Cinderella retelling. Either way though, I actually really enjoyed this book. I really liked it, and I had a good time with it for the most part. I will say the prince is forgettable. I don't even remember his name. I tried, you know, reading along the back to figure it out. I have no clue what his name is, but overall this is a great book and I really enjoyed it. The Love Calm by Cerestia Glass was a 3.5-star read for me. This book follows Kenya and Cam. Kenya is competing on this like Project Runway style show where she is trying to create cosplay costumes with prompts, and it's near the end of the show and she is sent home to create a cosplay with a partner, and she picks her longtime best friend Cam. She and Cam have been best friends since they were in middle school. They've grown up together. They have gone to college in separate areas but still stayed in each other's lives. And they end up completing this last part of this contest together. So overall, I actually really loved Kenya. I really liked her character. I liked how determined she was to get what she wanted. I liked how confident she was in her ability to get what she wanted. And I liked that, you know, despite some ultimatums she faced from some people, she still went through with it to get what she wanted as far as this costume contest goes. I enjoyed the way her crush on Cam was presented, and I enjoyed the way that I enjoyed that part of her relationship with Cam. Cam, on the other hand, I had a lot of trouble warming up to. At the beginning of the book, Cam is kind of mentions, you know, how he tried asking Kenya out sometime while they were in college and she turned him down. And the way he's written, it makes it sound like, you know, she turned him down and he almost only stayed her friend just because he wanted to eventually prove to her they could be together and they could be a couple and they could make it work. And they end up fake dating because of this show, because Kenya doesn't want to, you know, not have a partner for the show, right? And Cam's great at helping her with the show. I really enjoyed how supportive he was with that, and I enjoyed that part of it. But overall, I just wasn't a huge fan of Cam and how he kind of did come off as desperate in the beginning, and it kind of bothered me. And that might just be a me issue. But overall, I did like most of this book, but I think I started reading this around the time I got slumpy, because this is another book that I read in like short sittings, and I think it did affect my enjoyment. I think if this book had hooked me from the beginning, or if I had not been in like this particular reading mood, if I'd been in a better reading mood, I think I could have enjoyed it more. And so that's why I went with a 3.5 star instead of a 3. But it is rated as 4 stars on Goodreads. Anyways, those are all the books I read in February. If you've read any of them, please let me know what your thoughts are, and please let me know how your reading month went in February. Thank you so much for taking the time to watch this video, and I'll talk to you later. Bye.